Hey guys, Sam here. Early afternoon, October 6th on a Friday. So just continuing here to look at some of the cryptocurrencies that we've been focused on throughout the week. I had a couple of things to show you. One where I look like a genius, and one where I look like an idiot. So just want to make sure that I'm not just showing you everything that makes it look easy. Sometimes I'm just flat out wrong. So let's take a look here. First off, I had someone asking me about Ripple, and this is one where we looked at it earlier in the week. We ended up with this triangle, this complexity in the fourth wave before we took off, and he's long and he's got a really nice trade and was asking about stop placement. So I gave him a couple of thoughts on that. But I want you guys to look at this and see, how you might go about, analyzing it. If you were in this trade and you're saying, okay, well, where are reasonable targets? So of course, we'll just start with the easy ones. So we'll look at the alternate price projection, right? We're just taking the length of A and projecting it from B. So, as is often the case, whether it's a C wave or a B wave, the most likely targets for a strong impulse, the most likely target is between the 1618, and the 175. So I've drawn this little box here right there saying, well, if this is going to really rip and we're going to get a complete impulse, and maybe this is a 1-2, maybe it's an AB, and there's your C. For that kind of impulsive structure, there's your upside target. Now it's a little bit beyond the outer median line, right? With this is the 100%, this is the 1.5. So that looks like an area where that's a pretty strong target. Now, if we're going to retrace from there, there's potential reentry here at the median line, and so you might, again, just kind of keeping it simple. If we go to our, well, you'd pull from two places. You're going to pull from here from low to high, or the median line catches the 38. If I want to pull from what I've labeled as my 4. Now we've got the 38 and the 50 lining up here. So this is potentially either, if you're long, a place to put your stop on the other side of that, or a place to get back into the market, reload if you're not in yet, because this, for all we know, this could be 1, 2. This is a completed 3. And we're going to come down for a 4. There's lots of possibilities there. Just because I've got a 5th on it and because we've completed this structure doesn't mean that's it, game over, and now we're going down to new lows. This is just a way for us to quantify what we're seeing here and acknowledge that this has reached an area where we're likely to see, I'll say it this way, we're likely to see some profit taking. We're likely to see the next retracement. That's really all you can say about that. If nothing says this couldn't just continue to rip higher, if you'll pardon the pun, as we look at Ripple. This is a great story fundamentally. I'm a long-term bull on this crypto, so there's definitely opportunities here. But I guess one way to say it is I wouldn't be a buyer here. I wouldn't be looking to add to positions here or get into fresh longs ever, right? So just the most rudimentary basis of what I would teach you is that we don't buy breakouts, we don't buy new highs, we wait for retracements. We don't sell new highs either, or we don't sell new lows. What we look for is structure, and then we look for opportunity where that structure and patterns and price relationships that have proven to be repetitive in the market line up and give us good risk reward. You'll hear me say it hundreds of times. I'm trying to get it through your brain. Now, so there's our upside target. Let me take that off just for a second. So I don't want to clutter the chart. So that we know where that came from. That swing low, too high, projected up. Let's see if we can build more evidence. So we would want to look at the wave. This is the start of our impulse to the 3, to the 4. Well, now we're just beyond the 100, just shy of the 1272. If I go to what I'm labeling as our 4, Because we'd look for the relationship between this impulse 1, 2, 3 from our 4 low, trying to identify the 5 high. I dial it in right there. Well, likely target would be 100% of that. Well, we get within a couple of ticks. Right, so a lot of things lining up here, and then of course, because we are still within an internal retracement of this swing high to low, we got to go from the absolute high here to our low and take a look at that. Right, so we're right in the box between the 618 and the 65 that you hear me talk about so often. So that is 4 or 5 different swing relationships lining up to tell you that this is a place where certainly you wouldn't want to be a buyer. You wouldn't want to be adding to new longs there. You've got a whole lot of evidence to tell you that that's likely, we'll say it's resistance. Okay, so if you're long, you'd want to be following maybe on the other side of the median line if you want to give that room. If you were looking to get into Ripple on the possibility that this is all just a big 1, 2, 3, we're going to come down for a 4 and there's another leg up, which is certainly possible. I have it labeled as an ABC, but this could be 1, 2. There's the big 3. We come down for a 4, and then off we go to new highs. Certainly possible, right? We always want to keep in mind that the count that we have is wrong, right? Which is the highest likelihood. We can quantify this and say, okay, well that works, but the longer term count, never assume you've got it nailed. Just look at what the other possibilities are. So if that's going to retrace, if this is a 1, 2, well now I'll take that off just to try and declutter this a bit. So where's a reentry? Well, if this currently labeled B is a 2 and this is our 3, well, just to point of fact, that here we've got RSI, pretty hot up here as well. Just to add to all of that structural and fib relationship up there, telling us that's a contender for resistance, we'll call it. So likely spot to come down for a retrace. Well, you got to consider the median line. That's almost always going to be something that you've got to consider. Well, here's the 382 of the entire move, lining up perfectly with the top of the wave 3 as we have it labeled as that wave 3 high. So that would get you on the other side of the median line, which certainly that's a contender. Nothing says that can't happen. But if we go to the 23.6, you might catch that just perfectly. Right? It's the most shallow fib relationship, but we know that the most common wave 4 retracement is between the 23 and the 38. So you could look at it that way. Now the 23 lines up nicely with the median line, which if we're going to by tapping this outside median line, if we start to come back down, we have very high probability of, if nothing else, a reaction at the median line and likely some volatility, which could play into a 4th wave. If this is a 1, 2, this is our 3, here comes the 4. If this breaks down and subdivides, we're on a 4-hour here. If we go down to an hourly and we see an ABC implying counter trend, then perhaps there's one more leg up. And this would be a good place to be looking to enter. There's your first target up here at the negative 23.6. Here's your next target, the negative 618. So there's a lot of opportunity here in Ripple. So one to absolutely watch. So the first place I'd want to be paying attention is when we come back, assuming we do, we come back to visit the median line. Right? So one to watch and, challenging with this 4th wave triangle, but just a good example that this kind of thing does happen. They're not always a nice, clean, easy ABC. You get this kind of volatility. I know I took a stop in here somewhere. So these are difficult to trade, but when you see this reaction, you can kind of come back and go, all right, well, does that make sense? Does this play, and then where are my likely targets as we just went through? Okay, that's enough on Ripple. Let me, how am I on time? There's 9 minutes. Okay, I wanted to go over and show you a couple of these things. Now, earlier, I don't know, a week, maybe 10 days ago, I did a video called Big Game Hunting in Crypto. And you can find it on my channel. September 26th was the date of that. And the way we came up with the coin that we looked at, we went over to the list and we went to performance, and as I will often tell you, what I'm looking for is not the coin that's hot on that day or the last couple of days. I'm looking for the one that's retracing. So on that day, and you can go through the video if you're inclined, but what I was looking for, that was tail end of September, I was looking for coins that were down for the day, down for the week, but that were up for the month, and that were looking good long term, that had long-term gains. So just based on what I see here, I'm simply looking for what's retracing that's been strong for the year. Simple, right? So the one that we came up with was Vertcoin, which I don't know a lot about. I went over to CoinGecko, same process that I'm trying to teach you guys every time. Go over and look at it, read a little bit about it. Interesting. What's their score? 54. Good. Remember, I'm looking for coins with on their metric scale of a score of 50 or higher. So that qualifies. You want to learn about it? It's interesting coin, interesting crypto. The good numbers here. A lot of development interest, a lot of Twitter followers. Looks like it's an active coin. They've got a market cap of 57 million. This is no, little coin. They're a player. They are an absolute player. So let's go. Any advantage to be found technically. So here it is. First against the dollar. Pardon me. This is against Bitcoin. I'm going to come to that second. Here it is against the dollar. If I can get it. All right. So we looked at this and said, okay, well, let's see. We were on September 26th, which is right around in here, where there's the 26th right here. This first swing down to the 50, and I went through in that video the idea that, let me take that off, that we had some sort of 1, 2, 3, 4. Possibly that we had, this being our 5, then we had an ABC, and then we had started some sort of, diagonal, right? So it's very volatile. So look at these swings here. So this can be our 1 wave. 2 doesn't get to a new low. There's the big 3. We get a complex 4, which deeply overlaps the 1, so it has to be a diagonal. And then we rip up for this 5. Well, the thinking being, just from Elliott perspective, well, if that's the case, then the possibility here is that we are starting a new impulsive structure. So, in counting it, with this wave structure being complete, there's the ABC. Now we start again. So there's a real possibility that this is the start of the 1 wave. Here's our 2. We go 3, 4. I got to scroll down to give you more context. So we might go big 3. There's the 4, and up we go for the 5. So the thinking was that perhaps what we had here was just the 2, right? So all I was doing, nothing you haven't seen many times, was drawing the retracement. So 2 ways to draw it. From the 4 low, we'd want to check that, and you'll see we go to the 618 to the tick. But then I'd want to check all the way back, right? So if I'm assuming this is a completed 5-wave sequence, and I'm putting in the 2, I want to check that as well. So I have a nice little confluence here. I have the 50 of the all the way halfway back, and then I have the 618 of the swing low here before we start this big move here. Now, the reason I wanted to put that into context as a potential 1 wave, and don't forget to do this. Now, I'm on the daily here. I'm on the daily on Bittrex. Well, we got to see where this thing has come from. So you got to scroll back and say, well, where could this be going? And you've got to go to the weekly to see it. Where has this thing been? Now look at that in context. Because when we're looking at the daily, it looks like, wow, could it really go that high? Well, it's been up to 720. We're sitting here now at $1.49. So just again, rudimentary from my absolute high to the lowest low that I can see here. Well, now take a look at that. So I mean, is it reasonable that that's a one wave and that we could be going, much, much, much higher? If I can get this to separate for us. Moving slowly on the weekly. So potential here, even just to get to the 50% retracement, just to get to the 50% here, that there's a very real possibility that all we've done is put in a one wave. Here's the 2, big 3 up here. That would be 38. That's the 38 too. Interesting how these line up. So that would be the 38 of the entire move down, lining up with the negative 100 of this fib pull. Then we've got the negative 1.618 lining up with the absolute 50. So you got some really nice targets here on this. Even if we just do 50% of the entire move, that puts it up here at 350 and change. So there's a real possibility, once you put it in context, that that's just a one wave. And right now we put in the 2. That's our 5 of this 3, 4, 5 of that impulse, right? So technically it should be 5 is complete. There's the 1. Here's our 2, and now we're off in the 3. Well, all right, okay. So if you didn't take that after watching my video analysis and you're not long, okay, well, that's all right. Look, we've got targets up here that are $2 higher. So if you've missed that and this is going to be our 3, well, what do we do? We're just waiting for the 4. Just waiting for the 4. Okay, so if you're not in, sorry about it. I teed it up for you. There's our potential 3 way, way, way up here. Even if we hit the negative 618. Now, how do we know? Well, we'll look for this to subdivide into a 5-wave impulse. That would be the characteristic of the third wave. So maybe this here is just the 1 of the third. So there's going to be lots of opportunity here, and if that's the case, if this 2 is good and we go off into a 1, well, you've got a couple of things to wait for. You could wait for the 2 and then catch the 3 of 3. That's your money. That's your money wave. Wait, don't catch that. Well, you got the 4, so you never feel like you've missed something. Look at it in context of where it's been, where it could go. And just wait for your moment. If you miss that, because you're not going to catch everything. You're not. There's too many coins, too much movement. You focus on maybe a dozen, 10 to 12 coins that you can watch consistently. You alarm them, right? So you can see I had the alarm set here just below the 50, which ticked it, right? So that's. You can see it on my alarms, right? There's the Vertcoin alarm, right? Because I'm watching that. You want to do the exact same thing. So when you see a structure like this and say, okay, well, if it comes down to the 50, I want to know about it. Get this off. Where could that go? If that's the 1, it's already moving impulsively. Now I'm on the daily. Let's go to the 4-hour. If that's my 1, let me reset here. So now we can fine tune a little bit better. Take note, this, I've been using these more lately as a tool that I can show you. And again, this is from my days of trading in FX a lot. This is known as the Vegas wave, and why it has that name I can't tell you, but it's the 144 and the 169 exponential moving average, and you'll find it's a very good indicator for support and resistance. Then I add to it the 233. Most people will track the 200. I just use the 233 because it's a fib number. But you'll find that those will be very, very good as entry points in support and resistance. And you can see here as it came down, it literally, that's a textbook perfect Vegas wave trade. It goes right in the little window, the little pocket between the 144 and the 169. And then that starts the rip. So if this is our 1, 2, 3 is ripping now of 1, then you could catch the 4 to the 5, which tops the 1 of the 3. Do you follow that? Right? So it's always waves within waves. So if this is our 1, this is our 2, well, what are we looking for? Well, perhaps this is our 1, 2, 3 of 1 of 3. Right? That's where it helps to put the numbering on there so you can keep track of what likely could be happening here. Now, that again, just a potential roadmap, because for all we know, this is just going to double tap. You don't know until you get more evidence. But right now, that's a nice impulsive move. It tells me that if I'm right here and this is my 1, and I've put in a 2, which is all technically spot on, well, then I'm gonna break down impulsively. So maybe I got a little 1, a little ABC for a 2. Here you can even subdivide further, right? So I'm on a 4 hour. We can go to a 1 hour. Well, there's a 1, 2 within this wave here. There's my 3. I come down for a 4. There's a 5. So when you start seeing that, this is where you want to take advantage of the movement, because it's following your roadmap. So what are you expecting next? I'm expecting the retracement for the 4. Well, where would that invalidate? Well, we know if this is my 1, that's one I want to watch, right? If that's my 1, 2, or if nothing else, I just draw fibs. When in doubt, if you can't figure out the wave count, you're confused, just draw the fibs. So look how that lines up here. So here's our 50. So what are we looking for? We're looking for somewhere in this range. Now, if it's a 1, 2, 3, you might bump that up a little bit and to take in the 382. Most likely retracement for the 4th wave. Set that right. So 1 to absolutely watch. Now, how would you know to take that? How do you know? 38, 50, 618. How do you know? Well, you want to look at the characteristic of what's happening here. Is it breaking down in a 3-wave correction? Right. Look here. A, B, C. Is it giving you that subdivision here that would allow you to be confident in pulling the trigger at the 38? If it's not, and you're not sure, wait for the 50. If you miss it and it rips away, that's welcome to trading. Then you wait for the next one. If that's the 3, and you miss it, well, then you wait for the 4, or you wait for the next 2. Don't punish yourself because you missed something. Just go, okay, more evidence, more clues to the puzzle. What's the most, if my count is right, what's the most likely next thing to happen? You follow that? All right, let's show you one where I just couldn't be more wrong. This is the one, I think I did this one yesterday. So, and my point was, let me put it in context. Where'd we go here? Hang on a second. Get that back up. Okay, so let me go. This is Spreadcoin. And so yesterday, I went to this list and said, hey, careful about jumping on what's moving for the day. Be careful of that. Because, you're likely late to the party, right? If you try and chase something, you're increasing your risk, I would propose to you. That's my view. So that's not what I look for. So we went to this coin, and I pulled it up, I think, on an 8 hour. And I said, well, clearly there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And yesterday when we looked at this, I said, well, likely, because we have an A, B, C, and we'd gone right to the 618 and then pulled back. So, my view was I'm not one to chase something that's already left the station. And you can see it was all very technically valid. We had the 618 to the tick. We hit the median line. And, my view was I certainly wouldn't be a fresh buyer there. Well, what does it do? It comes down. It does a nice retracement. So let me break this down. There was absolutely a trade here. And I think I'm not in this, so let me be clear there. But I think I said, if you put a gun to my head and I had to trade it, I'd wait for the next retracement. So what do we do? We do a nice little 1, 2. I'd have to go on a smaller time frame, but we get a nice little 1, 2. Here's the retracement, and then it rips again today. Now, why is Spreadcoin on the move right now? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, more buyers than sellers. That's what I can tell you. I don't know why it's moving, but now that it is moving, is it tradable? Well, I still think you've got to be realistic about what you're seeing here in the chart, and not don't let a little greed cloud your judgment. We can see a clear 5-wave sequence down. That implies trend is lower. Our expectation is that we correct that in a 3, in an ABC. Well, again, as I remind you, just because it's correcting doesn't mean we can't trade it. I mean, you get an impulsive structure in the 5th wave, you can trade it. But my view was more about the timing of it. So if I break this down even further to the 1 hour, could someone who said, "Oh, Sammy, you don't know what you're talking about. I think Spreadcoin is going to rip for whatever reason. Maybe you got inside information." Well, you can definitely break this down into a 1. It's not the prettiest count. It's not the prettiest count I've ever seen. Note here how the Vegas wave holds it. So I guess you could say, there's the 618 for the 3. Some sort of ugly ABC here. We get a 1, 2, and we're ripping into a 3. Okay, well, all right. So maybe the way to consider this is coin on the move because of what we see over here. That's 2 days in a row. It's been the top performer in the whole crypto sphere 2 days in a row. So it's on the move. Can we trade it? Well, if this is a 1, 2, if this is our 1, 2, and we put in the 3. Well, I got to look at this and say, okay, if this median line seems to be responding to the median line, so I'm going to draw from swing low to swing high. So I'm going to measure from what I have labeled as the A wave from the B wave, most likely target. Right, where C waves will most likely, if nothing else, pause, if not turn, is 100% of that. There's the 100% right there. So we're very close to finding that within what's potentially 1, 2, 3, 4, potentially a 5. Right, we might have that, but this now looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, like we've got one more leg up. So coin on the move, is that the 5? We don't know. We don't know. What can we do? Well, if we've got a 1, 2, and this thing is going to continue to rip higher, well, there's our 2. There's our likely 3. You got a lot of data here to support that you're at a place where it's going to stall. Now, here you can see the 618 that we considered from the retracement on the larger time frame. Well, if it's an ABC and it stays internal, right? We still have the 5-wave sequence here. It can stay internal. Here's the 786. That doesn't invalidate the ABC, right? As we know from many times talking about it, the retracement, the C wave, the ABC can go deep. 786 is not an uncommon target. So we've got a little cluster right up here to say, oh, okay, I got a lot of things telling me, pay attention there. So the point being, I absolutely would not be a new buyer there. I would not be putting in fresh buys there. That you got a lot of things saying resistance there, resistance. You've got prior swing levels. You got a lot of things right there. So if you want to get long, let me get this out of here because some of this is just in the remains to be seen. If you want to get long this coin, if I'm going from my 2 low to what is potentially my 3 high, so I'm going to take some of this off just to declutter it so you can see it. Take that off. We know we've got this little box here. That can be the advantage of drawing the box because it's significant from prior pulls. So now we're just looking for the 4. So just simple structure. We'd want to mark the 3 high. We know likely candidate for the 4 is going to be right there between the 38 and the 50. If you know nothing about Elliott and you're just taking swing low to swing high, well, there's a contender. So if you want to get into this coin, have at it, but do it intelligently. Do it where you've got good risk reward, because if that's going to keep going, if we're going to come down, and we don't know that it will, but you've got some contenders here to suggest resistance. I'll put it that way. If there's resistance here, and we're waffling around the median line, which we know is going to be a magnet, if this gives you the opportunity to get long again here at a 4, well, now you've got fib targets right here. So you could go in here and say, okay, I love this coin. I know it's on the move. There's my first target, the 23, right with the median line. I want my stop down here under the wave 1 high, which happens to be right aligned with the 65. Well, first target, it's 2 to 1. 2 to 1. If we're going to go big time here, and we're going to go negative 618, now you're 3.5 to 1. You're going past all the way up to the negative 100 and the outside edge of the median line, which is a contender. If we're going to blow through this, if we're going to just keep ripping higher, next spot here, if we don't stall here and come back, and we just keep ripping through the median line, well, we'd expect the outside edge. That's at the negative 100 of the 2, ripping higher. So now you're at almost 5 to 1. So, all right, listen, take what I tell you for what it's worth. It's ultimately, it's my opinion given to you in the context of a framework, a methodology of how to approach the market. Doesn't mean everything that I post up here for you guys is going to be spot on, and we aren't going to come back and revisit and reevaluate. That's the nature of trading, and very much the nature of what you see with Elliott wave-based trading is that the waves are continually fluid. I got to use that, right? It's just that's the reality of it. They move, they change. You relabel, you renumber. What you thought was a 3 turns into a 1. What you thought was going to be a 5 turns into a B. But it gives you the structure to quantify it. Otherwise, it's just random chaos. How could you possibly quantify it? This is just a way to say, okay, what's likely to happen next? If this just happened, what's the most likely thing to happen next where I can position myself into the market with reasonable risk reward, right? I say it over and over and over again. I think you guys are probably getting the gist of it. Oh, holy shit. I'm at 32 minutes. All right, I'm wrapping there. That's it for the day. All right, guys, back to you as soon as I've got something new to share with you. All right, see you later.